Hello, I'm Bernard Norcott-Mahany. I work at the Blueford branch of the Kansas City Public Library in honor of April, National Poetry Month, and the Olympic Games that should be coming up in Tokyo. I am reading poems of Pindar, who wrote epinician odes, odes of victory for people who competed in the Olympic Games and in other ancient Pan-Hellenic events. So today we're going to look at Nemea poem 7. The Nemean Odes deal with the games that were held at Nemea. They were held every 2 years. They were not quite as prestigious as the Olympic Games, but they were up there. They were held the year after an Olympics and then 3 years after an Olympics. So was how the schedule of them worked. The one we're going to look at today, Nemea poem number 7, it was probably composed around 467 BCE for a boy named Sogenes of Aigina for his victory in the boys' pentathlon. Now, the big thing in this particular poem, I mean, first of all, he starts with this sort of like invocation of Eileithyia, the goddess of childbirth, and also the goddess who represents youth. He suggests that we don't all have the same destiny. We all have different destinies. So the setup sort of is everyone's sort of different. But there are some who are exceptional, like Sogenes. The other thing, though, that he talks about is he talks about the figure of Neoptolemus. Now, again, Aegina had as their main hero Telamon and his son Ajax, but Telamon is the son of Aeacus. Aeacus had another son, Peleus, who had a son, Achilles, who had a son, Neoptolemus. So the poems that are for people who come from this island, Aegina, what Pindar does is over and over again, he goes to the well of dealing with the Aeacidae, the Aeacus and his descendants. So, in a year previously, or a couple years previously, Pindar wrote a paean, which is a hymn of praise to Apollo at Delphi. So this was not one of his epinician poems. We do not have this poem, but we have his epinician poems, and we probably don't have all of those. But he wrote other choral poems that we don't have. And so in this paean, one of the things that we know is that he spends a fair amount of time talking about how Neoptolemus, the son of Achilles, killed Priam while Priam was worshiping at or was sitting on an altar. And of course, that was a big no-no it was considered sacrilege. Priam was the old king of Troy. Neoptolemus, of course, is fighting for the Greeks. But to kill, basically, in effect, a defenseless old man at an altar is really sort of bad. And so this paean at Delphi, he sort of slams Neoptolemus. Obviously, here, where he's really going to talk about how great the Aeacidae are, he can't quite, he definitely doesn't want to go where he went to in the paean. And so he sort of walks it back somewhat. And he does talk more about how Neoptolemus became a sort of patron ghost of Delphi, because he did go to Delphi later, after the Trojan War. He did go to Delphi, and there sort of became a figure associated with Delphi. So he doesn't really deny the whole killing Priam thing, but he downplays it in favor of this more prestigious and honorable thing associated with Neoptolemus, that he was a defender of Delphi. So, without further ado, this is Nemean poem number 7 for Sogenes of Aigina, winner in the boys' pentathlon. Eileithyia, seated at the side of the deep-thoughted Fates, daughter of strong and mighty Hera, listen, bringer of children to birth. Without you, we see not the day or the black night, nor find your sister, bright-limbed youth. But not for like ends do we all draw breath. As many as men are the different destinies that yoke each to his doom and hold him. By your help, Thearion's son Sogenes has been proved in valor, and song proclaims him victorious among winners of the 5 events. He dwells in the song-loving city of the Aeacidae, the spear strikers. They are glad to look after a heart well trained in the struggle. If any man's actions prosper, he strikes a honey-hearted well of the Muses' streams. Even high deeds of bravery have a great darkness if they lack song. We can hold a mirror to fine doings in one way only. If with the help of memory and her glittering crown, recompense is found for labor in echoing words of song. Wise sailors have learned of the wind that comes on the 3rd day, and lust for profit brings them to no harm. The rich man and poor man together come to death's boundary. But I hold that the name of Odysseus is more than his sufferings because of Homer's sweet singing. But on his untruths and winged cunning a majesty lies. Art beguiles and cheats with its tales, and often the heart of the human herd is blind. If it could have seen the truth, Aias would not, in wrath about armor, have driven a smooth sword through his breast. After Achilles, he was the strongest in battle. Of all who were sent in fast ships to fetch his wife for brown-haired Menelaus by the speeding breath of the straight west wind to Ilus' city. To all comes the wave of death and falls unforeseen even on him who foresees it. But honor grows for the dead whose tender repute a god fosters. One came, a champion, to the great navel of broad-bosomed earth. In the floor of Pytho he lies, Neoptolemus. He sacked Troy's city, where the Danae also toiled. He sailed away and missed Skyros. In their wanderings they came to Ephyra. For a little time he was king in Molossia, and his race always holds this honor. He went to the god with wealth from the loot of Troy, and there he fell in a fight over a victim's flesh, and a man struck him with his sword. His Delphian host were exceedingly grieved at it, but he paid what was foreordained. It was doomed that one of the royal Aeacidae should stay forever within the ancient place by the god's well-walled house. He should remain and see right conduct of the heroes' processions and multitudinous sacrifices. For honor and justice 3 words shall suffice. No lying witness, Aegina, watches over the doings of sons sprung from you and Zeus. I make bold to say this. For shining successes, the royal road of words begins at home. Yet in every task a pause is sweet, even honeyed cloys, and Aphrodite's delicious flowers. Each of us differs in blood and has a separate life. One man has this and one that. No man can have the luck to win good fortune entire. I cannot tell to whom fate has given this end for certain. But to you, Thearion, she grants a right moment of happiness. If you, who have found daring to do well, she spoils not the mind's understanding, I am a guest. I keep the black reproach away. I shall bring true glory like running water to the man that I love and praise him. The reward is right for the noble. If a man of Achaia be near in his home above the Ionian Sea, he will find no fault with me. I am host to his city and trust in that. Among my own people, the look is clear in my eyes. I have not overshot the mark. I have thrust all violence from my goings. May the rest of my days come to me with kindness. Any who knows me can tell if I come with a song that is harsh and out of tune. Sogenes, son of the Euxinid race, I swear that I did not step over the tape when I shot my quick tongue like a bronze-cheeked javelin, which frees neck and thews from the sweat of wrestling before limbs fall into the glaring sunlight. Let me be. If in exultation I raise too loud a cry, I am not sour about paying a song of joy to the victor. To plait garlands is easy. Strike up! The muse welds together gold and white ivory, and the lily flower snatched from the sea's dew. Remember Zeus, and for Nemea swell softly the many-toned range of song. On this ground it is right to sing with gentle voice of the King of Gods. For he, they say, planted the seed of Aeacus in his mother's welcoming womb. To rule towns in his own lucky land, and to be your loyal friend and brother, Heracles. If a man finds delight in a man, who can say that neighbor to neighbor should he love with unfaltering heart, is a joy worth everything. If God, too, gives support to this, with you who broke the giants to help him, Sogenes will be glad to live in good fortune and nurse a heart kind to his father in his ancestors' rich and holy road. As between the yokes of a 4-horse chariot, he has his home in your precincts, on either hand as he goes. You, blessed one, must win Hera's lord and the bright-eyed maiden. You can often give succor to men from the maze of confusion. May you link days of enduring strength to his youth and happy age, and weave them for him in bliss. May his children's children forever have what today gives and better hereafter. My heart shall never say that I have savaged Neoptolemus with dishonoring words. To plow 3 times in 4 the same field is futility, like one idly yapping to children of God's own Corinth. So there's one other thing in this poem. So he's saying, I really didn't actually savage Neoptolemus, and he actually takes to task how bad words can in fact affect even a hero, because the figure of Ajax at the Trojan War, Ajax committed suicide because of, in effect, a slick campaign on the part of Odysseus. So the power of words is very strong here, and he talks about how he's going to use it to praise Sogenes, but he's also trying to defend himself from having used words in a negative way to attack Neoptolemus. So, see you tomorrow.